Everything changed in an absolute matter of seconds. Welcome to This Explainer, right here on NFL Nexus. I'm your host, and today we are staring down a franchise that is standing on the absolute razor's edge of a brand new era. The Indianapolis Colts are undergoing a fascinating, high-stakes, and frankly somewhat terrifying roster transformation. The decisions being made right now, behind the closed doors of that front office, are going to echo for the next decade. If you are the kind of fan who obsesses over the meticulous, gritty details of how NFL rosters are built and how they are ultimately dismantled, well, you are in exactly the right place. Before we uncover the massive tectonic moves happening in Indy, do me a favor, drop a like on this explainer, make sure you actually hit subscribe to the channel, and please consider supporting these deep dives by becoming a channel member. Now, let's talk about the reality facing Indianapolis.
This right here is the massive, overarching question that is entirely defining the Colts' 2026 offseason. Following the release of a literal franchise legend, the front office is staring into a massive void. And let me be absolutely clear about this. The margin for error here is essentially zero. When you release a player who has been the anchor of your secondary, the absolute unquestioned soul of your locker room since 2017, you do not just draft a simple plug-and-play replacement. It does not work like that. You actually have to reshape the entire architectural philosophy of your defense. Think about what is really being lost here. You are removing a vocal leader that commanded the huddle in the most chaotic moments. You are removing an elite processing speed that historically masked a dozen other defensive deficiencies across the field. To replace that level of dominance requires a flawless, meticulously crafted transition plan, because if the plan is flawed, the entire defensive system completely collapses under the pressure of the modern NFL passing game.
So here is our roadmap. Number 1, a roster in transition. Number 2, the 2026 draft class. Number 3, finding undrafted gems. Number 4, replacing a franchise legend. And finally, number 5, Justin Wally's time.
Section 1. A roster in transition. Chris Ballard's 2026 reshuffle. Let's start with the macro view of this situation.
The math in the National Football League is ruthless. It literally does not care about your feelings, and it certainly does not care about past accomplishments. The Colts exited draft weekend with exactly 86 rostered players following their 8 draft selections. But here is the catch. To get to that 90-man limit required to enter training camp with their massive incoming undrafted class, something has to give. The numbers simply do not add up. Making room for this incoming youth means moving on from established veteran players. It is the absolute coldest, most unforgiving reality of this business. I really want you to think about what a training camp cut actually feels like for a franchise. It is deeply uncomfortable. It is the human element of literally clearing out a locker. It is a head coach having to pull a grown man, a veteran with a family, aside and telling him his time in this league might just be up, specifically to clear a physical path for a 21-year-old kid who hasn't played a single professional snap. But this is the job of a general manager. You have to violently clear the path for the future, even if it means tearing down the very pillars of your past success. It is a necessary brutality.
Moving to Section 2. The 2026 draft class. Heavy investment in the SEC and Big Ten. Let's look at the actual pieces of this reshuffle.
The geographical and physical philosophy that Chris Ballard employed during this draft is absolutely fascinating to break down. The Colts entered the weekend with 7 picks and managed to maneuver the board to walk away with 8. But honestly, it is not just about the raw number of darts they threw. It is purely about the pedigree of the talent they acquired. Notice a trend here? They exclusively drafted highly productive players from the 2 most physically punishing, unforgiving conferences in all of college football, the SEC and the Big Ten. There are no small school flyers on this list. There are no massive developmental projects from lower divisions that you have to squint to see the potential of. They identified massive, glaring needs on their roster, and they aggressively doubled up to fix them. Look at the linebacker position. First, they grabbed C.J. Allen in the 2nd round. We are talking about a physical specimen with sideline-to-sideline violence baked into every single frame of his college tape. Then, instead of checking the box and moving on, they circle right back in the 4th round for Bryce Bothker, an absolute tackling machine with elite pre-snap diagnostic skills. Then they apply that exact same philosophy to the edge rusher spot. They grab George Gums Jr. in the 5th and Caden Curry in the 6th. This is how you rebuild. You identify your core defensive weaknesses and you mercilessly attack them with battle-tested, premium conference talent. Section 3. Finding undrafted gems. The Chris Ballard UDFA formula. Because as we all know, the draft is only half the battle.
This is where front offices truly earn their paychecks. This legendary track record in Indianapolis isn't just about finding bottom-of-the-roster depth. Finding undrafted talent is quite literally the lifeblood of a championship-caliber team. Guys like Gary Brackett and Dominic Rhodes became absolute icons in Indy. They were foundational pieces of a Super Bowl team.
And ironically enough, the Colts have had immense franchise-altering success poaching other teams' undrafted players. Take Jeff Saturday, for example. I mean, here was a guy who went undrafted, was cut by the Ravens, and was literally managing an electrical supply store in North Carolina. His football career was supposedly over. The Colts give him a call, bring him in, and he miraculously transforms into a Hall of Fame caliber anchor for Peyton Manning. Under Chris Ballard specifically, this pipeline has been fully weaponized. It is a science. He found franchise puncher Rigoberto Sanchez, long snapper Luke Rhodes, and kicker Spencer Schrader, all completely off the radar. Finding core contributors after the 7th round concludes is not a luxury for this organization. It is a strict, undeniable requirement for their survival in a salary-capped league.
And that brings us right to their 2026 undrafted class, which is aggressive in a way we rarely see. The front office isn't just taking casual zero-risk flyers on these guys. They are making serious, undeniable financial statements. Take Wisconsin safety Austin Brown. They didn't just invite him to camp to be a tackling dummy for the veterans. They locked him down with a massive $272,000 in fully guaranteed money. To put that into perspective, that is a starter-level financial commitment for an undrafted rookie. That is the Colts basically screaming, "We view you as a draft pick, and we want you on this 53-man roster." And the sheer scale of this post-draft haul is staggering. They brought in Arkansas defensive lineman Cam Ball, a 5-year SEC player and multi-year captain who logged 50 games, 138 tackles, and 12.5 tackles for loss. They signed LSU linebacker Whit Weeks, a heat-seeking missile who tallied 76 tackles in the SEC last season. They added Virginia Tech edge rusher Mitchell Melton, Ole Miss linebacker Taj Chambers, and extreme speedsters like Abilene Christian running back Jordan Vaughn and Purdue wide receiver E.J. Horton. This isn't just an exercise in filling out a training camp body count to get through the dog days of August. This is a highly targeted, incredibly expensive acquisition of elite, overlooked talent. I really just want to let those numbers sit in the air for a second. Let your brain try to process those dimensions. 6'8", 314 pounds. Those terrifying, mountain-like dimensions belong to Penn State offensive lineman Nolan Rucci. Out of all the undrafted guys they brought in, he is easily the most fascinating project. His incredible frame and rare, sprawling wingspan make him the absolute perfect lump of clay for an offensive line coach. Sure, his footwork is a little raw right now, but his ability to mirror elite pass rushers purely with his sheer physical reach is a trait you simply cannot teach. You either have that length or you don't. Chris Ballard has a well-documented obsession with taking massive, late-round or undrafted offensive linemen and stashing them away in the practice squad shadows for a year or two just to develop their technique. Rucci fits that exact psychological and physical profile to a T. Keep a very close eye on him because he is the exact type of project that could mysteriously become the team's next massive post-draft success story a couple of years down the line.
Section 4. Replacing a franchise legend. The end of the Kenny Moore II era. All of this youth injection finally culminates right here. 111. That is the staggering, almost unbelievable number of games Kenny Moore II started for the Indianapolis Colts since 2017. 111 games of blood, sweat, and endless rolls of athletic tape. 111 games of literally bleeding for this franchise, firmly establishing himself as a foundational cornerstone of their defense. In the modern NFL, playing that many games at his position is basically a medical miracle.
You really have to understand the history and the intricate mechanics at play here to grasp the gravity of this transition. Kenny Moore wasn't some highly touted blue-chip, first-round pick that was destined for greatness. He was famously nabbed off the waiver wire as a former undrafted free agent by Chris Ballard to essentially kick off his entire tenure as general manager in 2017. Through nearly a decade of chaotic defensive scheme changes, massive coaching turnovers, and intense roster turbulence, Moore was the one immovable object. He was the anchor. And you have to realize why the slot cornerback position specifically is notoriously difficult to play at a high level. It is an absolute meat grinder in there. You are routinely matched up against the shiftiest, fastest, most explosive receivers in the entire league. Unlike an outside corner who can use the sideline as an extra defender, in the slot, you have to deal with complex two-way go routes. That means the receiver has the entire width of the field to work with. They can break inside, they can break outside. And on top of all that intricate coverage responsibility, you are forced into brutal run support, regularly taking on pulling blocks from 300-pound offensive guards. It requires a masterclass in raw physicality and lightning-fast processing speed. Moore mastered it. He perfected the art of the slot, and yesterday, he was released.
The jarring, visceral reality of this transition is absolutely impossible to ignore. Look at the contrast. On one side, you have a veteran legend with an impeccable decade-long resume, a guy who had seen every offensive concept the league could possibly throw at him. On the other side, you have Justin Wally, a 2025 third-round draft pick, a player with exactly 0 professional regular season snaps to his name. And to make matters even more complicated, he is currently returning from a devastating torn ACL. But here is where the plot really thickens. The front office had already made a massive landscape-altering blockbuster trade for Sauce Gardner, which effectively locked down the outside cornerback position for the 2025 season. That move was brilliant, but it creates a massive tactical ripple effect. It made the slot corner the absolute focal point of the secondary's vulnerability. Opposing offensive coordinators and quarterbacks are going to avoid throwing at Sauce Gardner at all costs, meaning whoever plays the slot is going to be targeted relentlessly, play after play. And now, the massive shoes left behind by an absolute icon are sitting right in front of a completely blank professional resume. The pressure on this young man is going to be astronomical.
Section 5. Justin Wally's time. A sophomore stepping up. Despite the total lack of experience, the feeling inside the building is shocking.
Instead of panic, there is this eager, buzzing anticipation surrounding this kid. Let's walk through the intense, highly emotional journey that brought Wally to this exact critical moment in his life. Back in college at Minnesota, he was an absolute Iron Man. He started 42 out of 49 possible games. He was breaking up 34 passes and grabbing 7 interceptions. He wasn't just a cover guy, he was a fearless, instinctual ball hawk who commanded the secondary. That collegiate dominance earned him an 80th overall selection by the Colts in April of 2025. By the summer of that draft year, he was already turning heads left and right in Indianapolis. He was absolutely dominating early training camp reps, stepping up and locking down seasoned veteran receivers in practice. Everyone in the media was whispering about him. He was on the soaring, undeniable verge of a massive breakout rookie year. And then, August happened. The brutal, sickening sound of a pop on the practice turf. A tragic, non-contact torn ACL completely wiped out his debut season before it even began. Just like that, his dream was put on hold. He was relegated to the cold, lonely isolation of the rehab room, forced to watch his draft class play on Sundays while he learned how to walk normally again. Now fast forward to May 2026. The grueling, year-long rehab is finally over. The knee is stable, the legendary veteran in front of him is officially gone, and Justin Wally is officially designated as the starting slot cornerback for the Indianapolis Colts.
And if you doubt for a single second the team's profound, unwavering belief in him, you need to listen to this quote from General Manager Chris Ballard during his recent pre-draft press conference. He was speaking about Wally and fellow 2025 draftee safety Hunter Wohler, who also suffered a brutal, season-ending Lisfranc injury last year. Ballard looked dead at the cameras, didn't blink, and said, "If they do not get hurt, they play major roles last year." Unequivocally. Unequivocally, that is not GM speak, that is not coach speak to boost a kid's confidence. Wally wasn't just some stash and develop depth piece in their minds. Even with Kenny Moore still on the active roster playing at a high level last year, the plan was always for Wally to have a major, high-impact rotational role before his knee tragically gave out.
But honestly, the real, definitive endorsement comes straight from his coordinator. Defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo has a strict, notoriously unforgiving reputation across the entire league. He runs a highly complex, aggressive defensive scheme that essentially requires PhD-level processing speed from his defensive backs. Anarumo is a coach who deeply, genuinely struggles to trust young, inexperienced players. And for good reason. Rookies in Anarumo's system usually get eaten alive by miscommunications. One false step, one blown assignment, and it's a 70-yard touchdown. Earning his trust usually takes years of film study and tedious practice squad reps. Yet, against all odds, Anarumo was fully ready to unleash Wally in his rookie year. That alone speaks absolutely deafening volumes about Wally's elite football IQ and maturity.
I really want you to picture this specific scene, because it is the exact moment the Colts knew they had something special. It's a joint practice against the Baltimore Ravens. The late summer heat is absolutely sweltering. Guys are exhausted, tempers are flaring, and it's a high-stakes, hyper-competitive team pass period. Justin Wally is lined up entirely one-on-one on an island with Rashad Bateman, a highly skilled, incredibly seasoned veteran receiver who knows every trick in the book. Under center is none other than Lamar Jackson. Lamar looks out to the perimeter, surveys the defense, sees a rookie cornerback, isolated with no safety help over the top, and his eyes instantly light up. This is exactly what a former MVP looks for. He taps his helmet, he changes the play at the line of scrimmage, they run a devastating double move, an intricate out and up, designed specifically to humiliate the rookie, exploit his aggressive tendencies, and get him to bite on the underneath route. As Lou Anarumo tells the story, 99% of rookies in the league would have been toast right here. They would have had their eyes stuck in the backfield, completely paralyzed by the mere sight of Lamar Jackson extending the play.
They would have bitten incredibly hard on the out route, completely lost their leverage, and been burned by 5 yards on the deep shot down the sideline. Not Wally. Wally stays perfectly composed. He seamlessly flips his hips without losing a fraction of a second. He perfectly matches the intricate double move, absolutely refusing to bite on the bait. He runs stride for stride down the field with Bateman right in his hip pocket. And as the perfectly placed ball arrives, Wally doesn't panic. He violently, perfectly punches it out, breaking up the pass and leaving a former MVP staring at a rookie in sheer, unadulterated disbelief.
Anarumo watched that entire sequence unfold from the sideline, turned to his staff, and thought to himself, okay, we definitely got one here. He later called it a veteran play. It was the exact kind of rare, high-level processing play that proves, without a shadow of a doubt, that you belong on the field in the National Football League. But as we all know too well, the NFL is a remarkably cruel, incredibly unforgiving theater. Just 3 plays later, literally 3 snaps after making the play of camp, the tension snapped. Justin Wally planted his foot, collapsed to the turf in agony, tearing his ACL. In the span of mere minutes, he proved to the entire coaching staff and to the Baltimore Ravens that he was a bona fide star in the making, and then he had it all brutally ripped away by the worst luck imaginable.
And that tragic whiplash moment brings us directly to today. The knee is surgically repaired, the rehab is over, and he is fully healed. The rust is slowly, painstakingly being knocked off in spring workouts. And the Indianapolis Colts are banking absolutely everything, their entire defensive integrity for the next season, on the traits they saw during that sweltering day in Baltimore. They trust him because his football IQ is genuinely off the charts. His college tape consistently shows him diagnosing complex wide receiver screens and route combinations before the ball is even snapped. His body type and incredibly fluid hips are perfectly suited to handle the sheer chaos and the impossible two-way goes of the slot position. He possesses these fearless, innate instincts that put him in the right position more often than not. And crucially, in a league obsessed with matchups, he has the exceedingly rare ability to play both inside the slot and outside on the perimeter seamlessly.
So I leave you with this final, lingering thought. This 5'10", 190-pound cornerback currently has the extremely heavy weight of an entire franchise resting entirely on his newly repaired knee. A decade of beautiful, reliable stability is officially gone. The changing of the guard is officially here, whether the fan base is ready for it or not. But will Justin Wally shake off the rust fast enough to seamlessly become the new anchor of the Colts defense? Or is Indianapolis headed for a deeply painful, terrifying learning curve in their secondary this season? Let us know your exact prediction down in the comments. We want to hear exactly how you think this entire defensive backfield holds up against the elite quarterbacks of the AFC. Thank you so much for diving into the meticulous details with us in this explainer. Be sure to support the channel by becoming a member, keep your eyes heavily fixed on the gridiron, and we will see you next time right here on NFL Nexus.